So, I want to welcome everyone to episode number 7 of Trust After Trauma podcast. And we have really been on such a journey in these last 6 weeks of just understanding all the different ways we can feel trauma, how we can express the ways in which we are healing through trauma, and all the beautiful guests that have come to really share their expertise and their tools. And today we have another special, amazing guest with us today. Laurie Conrod is just a light in this world. And we are going to be focused on the power of the subconscious mind. And so I'll get into the full title in a minute, but I want to introduce Laurie Conrod. She is a certified clinical hypnotherapist and a master practitioner of Neuro Linguistic Programming. Say that 3 times fast. Otherwise known as NLP. She believes that your mind is your most valuable asset, and she helps her clients reprogram their minds for successes that they want in their lives. Laurie came to this belief after coaching entrepreneurs and salespeople, helping them market their businesses and make sales online. She saw a repeating pattern in some of her clients, a lack of self-confidence, motivation, emotional blocks, or limiting beliefs that were holding them back from the success that they wanted. She discovered how NLP and hypnotherapy could help them very quickly remove these obstacles. So she pivoted from business coach to success practitioner, focusing on mindset as the key to success. So welcome, Laurie. I'm so honored that you're here with us today. I know you have a really busy schedule, and I'm just excited to get into this juicy conversation about the mind. It's so powerful. So I would love for you to just say hello, and then I want to introduce your topic and have you just share a little bit about your own personal journey of how this topic really was instrumental on a deep level for you to move into this field and help so many people.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I hope this talk will be very insightful and kind of mind-blowing for people, hopefully, because there's so much that we're not taught in school. And the more people understand about their own mind and how it works, the easier it's going to be to make changes and pursue the successes and the things you want in life.
Yeah, wonderful. And I love that your tagline is that our mind is our greatest asset. And, when you mind your mind, and we'll get into a really good conversation about all that. So, the full title of today is The Power of the Subconscious Mind: How to Heal and Release Negative Emotions and Mental Blocks Using Hypnotherapy and NLP. And can you share a personal story, like a defining moment that really brought you to really go deeper into? I know in your bio, I shared that you noticed patterns in your clients, but what are some of the things that personally brought you into having this be part of your life's work as a healer?
I think I started a personal development journey so long ago, I can't remember. I can't even remember if it was before I had my children I think it went into overdrive after that because I had a divorce. I divorced, and which was a very painful experience. Last thing I wanted was for my family to break up. And so it accelerated my personal development and just went into entrepreneurship. And in the part of entrepreneurship that I was in was all online. It wasn't working, in a brick and mortar where I had, a sign out front. And so that type of entrepreneurship, you go to a lot of conferences and sign up for a lot of presentations because entrepreneurship requires a lot of personal development, a lot of growth in order to be on your own, and you're the only one that makes it happen. So that was where it really took a very heavy focus for me. And and I just love it. I mean, I love personal development. I love learning new things. I'm fascinated by human behavior and why people do the things they do, why they don't do the things they want to do. And it all just manifested in my career. And and that's how I made that pivot from, coaching entrepreneurs. Once I learned how to build my business, I was teaching others how to build theirs. And I saw a lot of blocks in the way for them that
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out why they wouldn't do things that I told them to do. And
Right.
so, as a part of my own growth, I figured out that, well, people have their own model of the world. And when their model of the world has blocks in it, it stops them from achieving the goals that they want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just a natural pivot for me to go from coaching them on business skills and tactics to let's just focus on your mindset, because then once your mindset is working for you, any of your goals can be achieved.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why it's, your most valuable asset. You can't reach your goals and get to the things you want until you're thinking the way that is going to get you there.
Right. So can Lori, can you explain how the subconscious mind influences our daily lives and decision making, the decision making process, especially for those who've experienced trauma? And we're talking about all forms of trauma. And so maybe you can explain how the subconscious mind really does affect our decision making, our inability to move forward, our inability to choose the right next partner, or feel a sense of self-confidence. How is it that our subconscious mind affects that?
Well, the answer to that question is that it is what affects all your behavior. 95% of our behavior is a result of our subconscious mind, the one that we don't know is working 24 by 7. Our conscious mind is our logical, analytical, BS meter mind, but
Mhm.
that's its only purpose. And the conscious mind is only 0.004% of our whole mind. Okay, it can only handle 126 bits per second of information. That's why we can really only handle plus or two, uh, plus or minus two, 7 chunks of information at a time. It's why phone numbers are only 7 digits with an area code. You can only think of so many things at once, but your subconscious mind is 99.004%. And so it's like if you visualize an iceberg, the conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg. And your subconscious mind is everything underneath that water. And it's massive, 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 massive. Its number one directive is to preserve the body and to run the body. We don't have to think about breathing or our heart beating. And once you learn how to drive a car, you don't have to think about how to drive a car. That's your
Mhm.
subconscious mind working. And
Mhm.
so when we, that was the other thing, 2.3 million bits per second comes in to you through your senses. That's what the subconscious mind can handle. And it's a conservative number. Some people say 10 million bits per second, but we aren't consciously aware of everything that comes in. Like when you go into a crowded restaurant, there's lots of people talking. But your subconscious mind is recording everything. It stores all the memories there. And you might not remember them, but many times under hypnosis, we can remember things that we aren't even conscious that we saw.
Mhm.
Uh, But that huge iceberg takes care of all of your memories, all your beliefs, your identity, everything is stored in your subconscious. It affects 95% of all your behavior. And this is why people who say, I want to quit smoking, they say that with their conscious mind. I want to quit smoking, but then they don't quit. They don't stop. And that's one of the classic ways you can quit a bad habit is
Mhm,
by using either hypnosis or NLP to
mhm.
store new memories in your subconscious so that you don't want to smoke anymore. And
Okay.
so it's such a massive influence on our daily lives, our all of our decision-making processes. Um, and so, like for example, if you have a trauma, if a woman has a trauma with, a man, subconsciously she'll decide I hate men, or she'll decide, oh, I'm the problem and I need approval from men. So all different decisions can be made from a significant, emotional event or a traumatic event, and we all experience them to different degrees. So the subconscious deletes to general is everything comes in and then it stores it. And so everyone has their own model of the world, which is why a lot of people can't understand each other. Um, and something as simple as someone who loves the ocean and someone who can't stand the ocean because they had a negative experience and they're afraid of the water. Um, so it has every influence on all of our decision making. And that's why I find NLP and hypnotherapy so fascinating because you can change your mind like that because usually we do change our mind in an instant, but we've kind of been taught through traditional counseling, talk therapy that, you need counseling and therapy for years and years to solve your problems. Well, many, many, many problems can be solved and decision making changed very quickly with NLP and hypnosis because they deal with the subconscious mind, whereas talk therapy deals mostly with the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is really good at rejecting stuff it doesn't like. So if a therapist tells you, do this or do that, or, a coach tells you to do this or do that, a lot of times people they'll just reject it over time and they won't make any progress. Um, what else? Subconscious mind, this is important. It doesn't have language. It only has pictures, sounds, and feelings, which is one of the reasons why NLP and hypnosis work so well, is that we work with how the subconscious mind works rather than the conscious mind. The conscious mind uses language to make sense of the world and to communicate it. If I tell you, don't think of a blue elephant, you can't not think of a blue elephant because
Mhm,
that's how the subconscious mind works. It's going to think of a blue elephant. So, for example, hypnosis, when someone is relaxed and in trance, and then you give them suggestions that they want to quit smoking or believe in themselves and have confidence,
mhm,
they will, because when you use visualization, the subconscious mind will reprogram
mhm.
the beliefs, identities, everything. And that's why it works so quickly.
Wow. There's so much that I want to like have you dive deeper into. And, when you said, like even one person's afraid of the ocean and one person isn't, when we're talking about trauma, we're talking about fear that's stuck, and it's stuck in the subconscious mind. So what would you suggest or recommend to our audience as a step in looking at themselves, because this is the most important thing, right, is to know thyself. And when you can recognize a pattern, or you look at an area of your life, like let's say, there's people in the audience that are like, I just keep picking the wrong partner, or I keep picking the same partner over and over and over again, or I just can't seem to get the job that feels fulfilling, or that I feel connected to. What would you suggest? How would you suggest they first start making, I mean, other than reaching out to you, a practitioner, an NLP practitioner, and a certified hypnotherapist, what would be a step that you would recommend them taking to even start taking stock of the patterns in their life that they want to change?
So the reasons why someone would have those kinds of beliefs that are tripping them up is truly individual.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would ask lots of questions with someone to figure out what those were in order to work, and come up with a specific technique to help that particular issue. I would say I think it's important to write down what you really want, like really have a heart to heart with yourself on what you really want, and then start being at cause for the decisions that you've been making. And that is a success formula that I was going to talk about in one of your later questions, but we can talk about it now. And that is always being at cause. Most people live at effect, and being at effect is the mindset of victimology, always being a victim, blaming other people or circumstances for what's going on in your life. Um, for example, okay, it comes to mind. So say you're picking the wrong guy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any insight at all into your own experience as to why you do that, maybe it's a negative relationship with a previous man or your father or an uncle or something. And you may or may not know what that is, but then you can say, okay, now I know what I want. So I'm not going to blame my father, my uncle, my ex or whatever. So I'm going to live at cause. I'm going to be 100% responsible for my decisions and be accountable to those. And then say, okay, so moving forward, number one, forgive yourself. Say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to forgive myself and I'm going to forgive them if I had negative experiences with them. And I'm going to live at cause for the rest of my life. And that's the success formula. Because as long as you're not blaming other people or being a victim or saying, I can't do this because, um, that keeps you stuck. But once you're at cause, you're saying things like, how can I be at cause for my life today, regardless of what's happened in the past or what my current circumstances are? How
Mm-hmm.
can I take responsibility? Because what that does in your mind, in your brain, and in your subconscious wants to solve that problem. But if you're saying because your subconscious mind doesn't have to do anything, it just goes dormant. So we have to be problem solvers in order to make progress. So if you've got your list of the perfect man that you want or the, perfect relationship, stay true to yourself. And every time you meet a guy, see if he does okay on the list. And if he doesn't, walk away. So that's kind of a conscious mind solution, but it
Right.
does work. It does work as
Right.
long as, you stay at cause and you're true to yourself. You will get results and you'll make progress and you can learn.
Right, 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 right. There's so many, again, there's so many things that you shared. And when, you know, when you think about the practical steps, you just shared some practical steps, making a list of what you do want. And I love that you explained what being of cause means, because, that's a language that maybe most people haven't heard before, but it's taking personal responsibility for everything in your life. How, our results are a direct um, uh, external example of what we're focused on in our lives. And so, can you maybe share some other insights or examples of how hypnotherapy, NLP, has helped individuals release negative emotions? Because that's like going even a little bit deeper. So releasing negative emotions or overcoming mental blocks. You know, uh, can you share some of those?
Sure. So what's very interesting is that most people don't have never heard of a gestalt. And we each in our subconscious mind have a gestalt for every emotion. And all that means is we keep memories on a timeline in our mind. And they're stored on a timeline. They're stored actually on a line, whether it's straight or it's angled or whatever. But that's the way it's stored. There's a gestalt for every emotion. And what happens is you have your first incidence of feeling, say, anger, okay, in your life. It could be in a past life, it could be generational, it could be in the womb, it could be at birth, or it could be after birth. And it's, of course, usually when you're very young, somebody takes your toy away, or you're actually experiencing anger because your mother is angry about something while she's pregnant. And it could be in your DNA from generations, it could be anywhere. But we always find the root cause, and that's the first incidence on the Gestalt. But what happens is every incidence of anger in your life gets recorded on that Gestalt, on that line. And it's cumulative. Okay. So say your first incidence is when you're, 12 months old and you figure out, oh, this is anger. And so you have this experience of anger. And then your next one is 2 months later and you're angry again. The gestalt, just keeps growing on itself. And we have a technique called timeline where we find the root cause from your subconscious mind, which you probably don't even remember because it's so far back. Yeah, and then we eliminate the first incidence, and then the rest of the gestalt disappears. And I have a technique for getting rid of, once you create the root cause, the rest of them will all go away. So I call it an emotional reset. And we do that with anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt in that order. And that is a very, very powerful technique to give someone an emotional reset where we're resetting anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. And then we can do other negative emotions that they might be feeling, like, strong rejection or, some other negative emotion that they have going on in their life. And so that's an example of getting rid of negative emotions. I can also do that for limiting beliefs, mental blocks, whatever you want to call them. Um, limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. Um, I can't get a new job. I can't do that job. I can't good enough is probably the number one for human beings. And so that's one really, really powerful one. There's another one called parts, because, for example, the person who wants to quit smoking, but then they don't, or they want to go out with this guy, but they won't, or something. They want to lose weight, but they don't. If you have two parts in your mind that are conflicting, you'll just never make a change. And so we have a really powerful, fun technique for figuring out what the two parts are, which is pretty easy. I either want or I don't want to do something, and then bringing the two parts together so that your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are aligned, and then you kind of get over what was the obstacle of keeping you from that progress and keeping you from reaching that goal that you wanted. So that's a couple of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that your sharing on our Freedom Beyond Abuse program in a group setting was so dynamic and powerful. So anyone who's resonating with this and really wants to live their best life and wants to, trust is a muscle that we build within ourselves, and it gives us this opportunity for pure alignment, and our conscious and our subconscious mind playing well together is another way in this conversation to look at it. And you feel like you're living in integrity with yourself, and that's a powerful and a very dynamic way to live. And isn't that what we all want? We want to live our best life. We want to live in our best self. So as I bring this last question, can you share maybe some practical steps or exercises? I know you said, journaling, getting clear on what you want, but if you could share some practical steps that our listeners can start implementing today to begin healing or building trust in themselves and others using the power of their subconscious mind.
Well, for, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And you can either hire a hypnotherapist to do something specific to help you in your life, change a habit, gain more confidence, do all kinds of things. But I would say there's probably many, many different hypnosis and meditations,
Mhm.
out on the internet for any specific you want to focus on. And there's many reputable companies that put those out. There's apps out there that will do that. And
Mhm.
if those aren't tailored specifically to you as an individual specifically, but they can still be effective, you know?
Mhm.
And the difference between working with a hypnotherapist and one of those is that a hypnotherapist will create suggestions that you want specifically for you.
Right.
And so they are more effective. But there's so much free stuff out there that you can use. And it really depends on what the issue is. Is it anxiety? Is it confidence? Um, there's lots of materials out there for people. And like I said before, using the success formula, always being at cause, um, is such a simple, practical thing to think about all the time. And then notice other people in your life.
Mhm.
Notice how they living at cause or are they living at effect? Most people are at effect, and they don't realize it because social media, television, news all creates victim mentality.
Yeah.
And so people go with the flow, go with that flow, and they live at effect and say, I can't do this, I can't do that. Oh, it's, the way my mother brought me up, you know. No, we have to be responsible for our lives. We are the average of the 5 people we hang out with the most. So look at the people you hang out with.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where do you find inspiration? And you might make different decisions about the people that you spend the most time with and let go of some of those people and replace them with people who inspire you and who lift you up. Those are general ones for sure, because I can't give people a specific, you know, NLP or hypnosis thing to do, but there is a lot of free stuff out there as long as you get it from somebody reputable.
Well, and it's wonderful. And I know you have lots of things out there too. And how can we stay in touch with you? Because again, um, uh, the power of our mind is what's creating the quality of our life. And so there's really nothing more important than this. So how can the listeners stay in touch with you?
Well, I have my website and I call it LC for my initials, assetmanagement.com. It's a little play on asset management because I truly do believe, our mind is our most valuable asset. And so all my contact information is there. I always do a discovery call before I work with anybody because I need to know specifically what someone thinks their issue is and explain their problem. But you can also get in touch with me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I don't use either one very much anymore, but I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about, starting to put some content out on social media again, like I did in my first business. Um, so yeah, and my email is Laurie, Laurie at lcsatmanagement.com.
Fantastic. And we'll have all that in the show notes too. So you don't have to remember it. But um, I'm just so grateful for our time together and this really deep and profound conversation. Again, the surface of our life is just, it deals with so many things that our conscious mind is aware of, but you're here to help people go deeper and really live higher. So I just want to thank you for your time and your generosity and your experience and your expertise. And from our hearts to yours, we're really truly grateful for this time together. And thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Janet.
You bet. Bye, love.
Thanks.
Bye.